Hi everyone, it's Rev Kimmy.
And I'm Dr. G. Welcome to our podcast.
And welcome to Words of Knowledge Chronicles.
Today we are going to discuss the missing person case of Caleb Harris in Corpus Christi, Texas. Caleb was a white male, 21 years old, from New Braunfels, Texas. He went missing on March 4th, 2024. He was at home in his apartment with his roommates. They took the puppy out for a walk, came back. He was waiting for his food to be delivered. And supposedly he went outside and wandered off and was never seen or heard from again. And this one was a surprise for me. I was actually distracted by the Riley Strain case because everybody was saying, "Oh, that's a smiley face case."
Yeah, I was working the Riley Strain case, writing the police chief and telling him where he was, what had happened with the way the Lord was showing me prophetically what happened to him, which was 100% accurate, all in writing prior to it coming to pass. You guys can go to the Riley Strain. There's 2?
Yeah, I think we did too.
Yeah, there's 2 episodes there for you to listen to. But on Caleb's case, somebody wrote me, the public, through my Facebook and told me about his case because I'd never heard of it.
Okay. And for our first-time listeners, I made a reference there to smiley face killers. I'm Doc from the Oxygen Channel series, The Smiley Face Killers, The Hunt for Justice. I am a professor. I teach forensic victimology, crime mapping, and profiling. And Kimmy?
And you guys can watch that series now on Amazon Prime. He forgets to mention that.
Oh, yeah. And
what was your question?
Who are you?
I am an ordained Christian reverend. I have been in ministry over 20 years, usually in hospitals, ICU, ER, convalescent, hospice, and I taught in the in the churches and a whole bunch of other types of ministry, including street ministry, street evangelism, law enforcement involvement. So anyway, and then I do missing persons since 1997. It all began on the Kristen Smart case, San Luis Obispo. The sheriff's department, her initial homicide detectives, hunted me down for my giftings. And I went up there and helped them, returned in 2021. And you guys can go to Kristen Smart's episode and listen to that. But that's how it all began on her case, and I've been doing it here and there using my ministry gifts that so happen to work on missing person cases.
Yeah. Well, so there we are. We had no knowledge of the case, none whatsoever. I was familiar with Texas. I've been in Corpus Christi. I was stationed at Fort Hood for ages, it seemed like 6 years, back in the 80s. And then all of a sudden, you tell me about this case, so I start researching it and trying to map what I can. But at the time that we picked up the case, there really was nothing out there yet.
No, and I read a little bit about it after the person wrote me, and I felt sorry for them. Of course, I'm a compassionate person, and that's what I did in hospitals, right? And also for the abandoned or poor people, and a lot of people have been abandoned in the convalescent hospitals. Their family drops them off. I went to the poorest of poor convalescent hospital, so they were abandoned. So I have compassion for people. So when I read about this case, I felt sorry for the people involved, including law enforcement. I felt sorry for them because they didn't have any answers. So I'm like, well, I'm usually accurate.
Yeah, you're proven more accurate than a canine.
Yeah. I could be sorry. I used to tell that to homicide.
And you're
I can't
not
tell
even
you which.
on site.
Yeah, I used to tease them and say, hey, I would be certified now if I was a dog.
Okay, so when was your first email? And another thing, too. How do you prepare for this, and how long does it take for you to prepare for what you do, and what is it that you actually do, and then how long did it take you to come up with your initial email, and when was that?
Yeah,
that's a lot of questions.
Each case is different. It really is. Each, if you guys watch true crime, murder shows, unsolved mysteries, they're all totally different, right? Same with the gifts. God uses me in so many different ways. Sometimes He even gives me prophetic dreams when I'm asleep, as He did on Orrin and Orson West's case. You guys can go to that episode. He gave me a prophetic dream that matched up with the biological child that years later testified in court of the same information God told me that I told the police about 2 years prior. So anyway, it was just I looked at a picture of Caleb Harris, and I saw some information right away. And I didn't go into praise and worship as I sometimes, most of the time I do, but it just came to me right away. Just like Jennifer Michelle Lorber's case. You guys can go to that one. That was an instant, seeing her picture. And so, right away I knew what had happened to him. So I wanted to do research and find out who to write. I wrote the law enforcement that's in charge of the case. And you asked me what date. That's, I don't know if I told people. Did I mention, you said, what do I do? I only mentioned the ordained. What I do for a living, guys, is I'm a litigation trial paralegal at the top law firms of our country, usually representing celebrities, movies, stuff like that. You could go to my LinkedIn, found as Kimmy Bloomberg, KYMMI Bloomberg, BLOOMBERG. And you can see, I list some of the celebrities if you're interested in seeing that. Some people like that. So I wrote law enforcement. That is, honestly, I work a lot of cases. I don't have it memorized who these people are, but it is the police chief or deputy. It's law enforcement who's in charge of the case.
Okay. And what day was that you...
Okay, I'm reading from emails. Because I'm litigation trial paralegal, guys, I always write law enforcement about what happened prophetically. And so I have it in writing, and I turn it into screenshots, and I put it on my pinned docuseries found on my Facebook. It's found as Kimmy, KYMMI, Bloomberg, BLOOMBERG. Look for the pinned docuseries and look in the comments. There's a lot of different cases there. Just look for Caleb Harris. So this email is Saturday, March 23rd, 2024 at 2:31 p.m. And I write, I'm sorry, I really don't know who it is. I really do get in and get out quickly. It's M-I-K. Okay, I guess it's a Mike M, like Mary, at cctexas.com. And I wrote, it's Chief Markle. Okay, I did write that. Otherwise, I really wouldn't remember, guys. We work too many cases, and then I'm in law. Okay, so I wrote him and telling him about my law enforcement reference at the time, and how I learned about it, and that I was working Riley Strain's case. And do you want me to read what I said to them, Dr. G, at this time? Or?
Yeah, that'd be good. And keep in mind, this is only 19 days after he went missing, and actually at that point, little or nothing was known by anyone about what had happened to him or where he was. Or
no, they didn't know where. They didn't know anything. At least that's what they said publicly, because that's why I felt sorry for him. Remember? Yeah. So I was trying to help.
And even the news media just kept repeating the same old stuff every day. It was...
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I was asked to help, and I'm trained that way as a minister, that if somebody asks for help, And if I have the means to help, I am to help. So I was asked to help. So I did. So I wrote, I'm not going to read everything. It's confidential. You will see redacting if you go to my Facebook. I can't let you see who my law enforcement reference was then. He has been made chief of the detectives division and can no longer be my reference because he can't do that anymore. He's too busy. So anyway, so I have redactions for certain reasons and also that it's disturbing. Law enforcement can handle some information and I don't want to disclose that to the public, in that I always think maybe family or the parents or whomever is not going to hear it, but they do. They call me, they write me. One person, there was a case we worked on in Valencia, California, and the person said that she heard my podcast or our podcast in Guatemala.
Yeah.
Okay. And it was through Snapchat or something else. Well, it was some other, I forget, not Snapchat. It was through something else, and I don't remember what it is. The free phone calls,
Oh, WhatsApp.
WhatsApp. I've never even used it, guys. Okay. How our podcast notified her, she said, through WhatsApp.
Yeah.
Okay. Never used it. Okay. Our podcast is not even attached to it. None of us know how that happened except for that God was behind it. So anyway, the mother listening, it consoled her. And the family reached out to us. So for that reason, I don't want to share.
They reached out to let you know that it gave them comfort.
Yeah, that it comforted them through the loss of, their daughter. That case made me cry a lot, so I got to be careful not to talk about it. It's pretty upsetting. Okay. Okay, so I said, what here, we're going back to the email to the chief. What happened to Caleb Harris? There's a lot said here, guys. I'm not reading it to you because it's private for law enforcement. But what happened to Caleb Harris, the prophetic analysis? To note, I knew nothing, absolutely nothing about this case prior to doing the prophetic analysis, so that it would be pure information from God and not be influenced by what I read. I only looked at his photo yesterday to get a prophetic analysis. Then today, a few minutes, I watched a Ring camera video of him at 1 a.m. the morning he went missing at 3 a.m. I read the investigators and searches are at a loss what happened to him and where he is. So here he is. Now, this is what I told him. But there's more, but it's redacted and I'm not going to be reading it. It is disturbing. And we're not going to discuss that publicly. I am very sorry to be the one to tell you that Harris was literally abducted. I believe that Harris is most likely dead. I believe he was murdered. Now, like I said yesterday afternoon, I heard about this case. So I looked at his photo. I instantly saw a few details, like he was barefoot, etc. God showed me these things, these details. Then God showed me he was abducted against his will by at least 2 to 3 men. They took Harris off in a vehicle against his will. They did things to him, and I have it redacted, and murdered him. They thought it was funny. It's a horrible situation based on some kind of hatred. Was Harris religious or something? Or why they would hate him? So then I say, go ahead and email me, call me, or whatever you need. Then I wrote them a second time.
Can I interrupt? So, folks, we just learned today, we found Caleb's obituary, and we found that he was, I don't like to mix the words religious with spiritual.
Well, he was a believer.
But most people say religious because they don't understand the difference. And this young man was definitely, I believe, a saved Christian. Given what was written on his obituary. And so you had that right. You definitely had that right, Kim. And you also had correct that he was barefoot. We found that out later on. Now, before you read the next email, do you see exact visions or impressions? And then I have another question for you.
Yeah, so next, I'll have all the above. What was that case that we worked out here in Minnesota? The little boy who went missing.
Yeah.
So, but the Lord, like I see,
Ali Muhammad.
Yeah, the Lord will talk to me and show me things in so many different ways. I'll just sometimes just know information, like a knowing.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'll have a vision, or I'll have a dream while I'm asleep. He'll show me information that comes to pass. It's pretty scary when he does that.
Yeah, we did a podcast on that too.
He's done that in 2 murder
Muhammad.
cases,
Yep.
and helped the police. That was nice of the Lord, because usually he does it for ministry purposes. I guess it's a ministry. Mm-hmm. I always feel like law enforcement is a ministry.
Okay.
So anyway.
So when's your next email?
He just gives impressions. Well, when I saw, I'm looking at a photo of Caleb. It took 5 minutes to know what happened to him. I didn't go into praise and worship. Like, sometimes I need to. Most of the time I need to. I saw a photo of him, and then the Lord showed me him walking outside his apartment. And he was going, towards the street. And then he was walking towards the opening to like a parking lot. And the Lord showed me his feet. They were barefoot. And then the next thing I saw, the Lord showed me that he was taken by 2 to 3 men in a Suburban. And it was a dark color. And so I don't know. When I have prophetic visions, it's really hard to know exactly the color, such as when I worked on Kristen Smart's case. If you guys don't know, I'm the one who tipped law enforcement directly through Detective Cole that Kristen Smart was buried at Ruben Flores' Arroyo Grande house. And I described it as a light blue. In actuality, it's a light gray. So you can't really tell color. Okay, but the information was correct. It's always correct because it's not coming from me. So, it's a dark color. It's dark blue or it's dark brown Suburban who abducted Caleb, and they went in the direction of you exit the apartment and go right.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, and I know that they did things to him. I don't want to talk about it in case the family's listening. And that's enough.
Okay. So
I believe that his body was placed through the manhole from these individuals at some point to discard his remains. And I believe they didn't think that he would ever be found. But thank goodness there's an alarm system on the sewer, right?
Yeah.
That notified the city, right?
Yeah, the city.
That something was wrong.
Yeah, we'll get.
Or he probably wouldn't have been discovered.
Yeah, we'll get.
So
into
thank
that.
goodness for the alarm.
That's a whole chain of events chronologically, and
yeah,
and it took you like 10 minutes, right?
5 minutes.
Yeah, it took me
just like Jennifer Michelle Lorber's case. I looked at her photo,
took me
and that was it. I knew.
Just do the Google search.
Well, it rushes by me as if like the information comes in just a few seconds, and boom, 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 I see all these things like a movie just rushing before me, just like the little boy who was Minnesota.
Yeah.
What was his name?
Ways Ali Muhammad.
You guys could go to that episode too. What the Lord showed me was the apartment building where he lived. God showed me he crossed the street and he went over to the water. And that's where he was found. Unfortunately, he was drowned. Little 4-year-old?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I do see the details of what the Lord wants me to know. The Bible says that we prophesy in part and we know in part. That's why I don't know what the abductors of Caleb Harris look like. I don't know even their
hair color, their
nothing,
skin color.
Nothing, because they're not my subject. You know, they're not the ones that I'm trying to help.
Right.
The Lord shows me the details of Caleb Harris, not of the individuals who were involved abducting him.
Right. You speak
and
for
murdering.
the victims, not the offenders.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So when was the next email that you sent?
Well, that was April the 5th, 2024. And this time I wrote, all I know is it Todd Green? Todd, I think. He's one of the main investigators on the case. I'm sorry, guys. Honestly, I don't know Caleb's case that well. I actually got in and got out quickly. Went on to other cases.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I do this all over, even in different countries. So the emails that I wrote about the vehicle are TRENADEP@cctexas.com and Todd G @cctexas.com.
Okay. All righty.
And they're the ones that I followed up on when I felt that I would just go ahead and tell them the vehicle that I was shown.
And that was April 5th.
Yeah, because they weren't going anywhere with the case.
Yeah.
And I was afraid to mislead investigators, so I just sat on it for a while. What was the first time I wrote? March 23rd. Yeah. But I knew at that time, in March 23rd, what it looked like.
He went
but I left it alone. I thought, oh, they'll find him. Just leave it alone. I don't want to mislead investigators, right? That could spin them off in the wrong direction. So then, you know, by April 5th, 2024, they still knew nothing, or at least that's what they were saying. And so at that point, I thought, well, I have no way. It's not going to hurt.
Yeah, you went missing March 4th. You wrote him a couple weeks later, emailed him, and they're still getting nowhere. And now you email them on April 5th, so that's about a month later. And the investigation is still just stagnant.
It still is.
Yeah, and yeah, we'll get into that. It's still a mystery, so to speak.
Not a mystery to me.
Yeah, or to me, or to I, or to me, I guess it would be. Boy, and I have spent probably, oh my goodness, because I do teach crime mapping. You know, I worked for signals intelligence for 10 years, and I teach crime mapping, so I really get into this. And I'm going to reference my book, the book that I wrote with New York Homicide Detective Sergeant Kevin Gannon, Case Studies in Drowning Forensics. We did an awful lot, not only in our TV series, but in the book, a lot of cell phone analysis and a lot of mapping. And so this case really lended itself to that. So we will discuss some of that as well. A little bit different for me, though. I've never had to map out sewer systems. But we will cover that shortly. What else did you share prophetically with
You know what? Honestly, it was 5 minutes. It was 5-10 minutes, just like some other cases.
Oh.
It was quick. And, you know, my email I send is pretty much a form. You know, you just change who it's to, and then you fill out prophetically what happened. Because I'm busy. I'm busy on legal cases, you know. Mm-hmm. I don't have a lot of time to spend. But the information's interesting. It's always 100%. It's in writing. We have law enforcement, active law enforcement as witnesses. They saw it in writing months before it occurs. Right? And then physically, the situation, I believe couples the prophetic. It reflects the same thing. Homicide.
Yep.
Though
Yep.
law enforcement can't prove it on their end, but we're tossing them aside. It's just toss their work aside. And we can analyze Caleb's behavior, what he was doing. It's not suicide. I used to answer the suicide hotline in Santa Clarita, California. I was trained from a psychiatrist, and I know firsthand is, he has plans, right? Not plans for suicide, but plans to live. He was busy living.
Oh,
he had
yeah.
plans the next day to go fishing or something.
Yeah, he was really
Those are
into
all
the
signs
outdoors.
that a person is not suicidal. Also, a person is not going to be going cruising around into a field or a mile away or down into a sewer, especially so because of the fact that they're barefoot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he has food coming. So now, why would you leave? Why would you go down into a sewer?
Yeah.
You wouldn't. Okay?
Yeah, he
And-
loved
and-
the
and-
outdoors.
and if he
that doesn't
was-
mean he's going to be the barefoot wonder and walk across the field.
And if he went down in there and explored, here's something that could prove that he didn't do that. There's no accident. Oh, he tripped and fell, and he fell in. Then I ask you, where's his phone? He tripped and fell. Don't forget. He accidentally fell in there, right? Where's his phone? On April the 18th, 2024, there was a manhole reported. Law enforcement in the city emptied the water. They went down in it, investigated it.
Yeah.
They also then went to the lift, where his body was found later, and they found nothing.
Yeah.
Where's his phone? If he fell in, I ask you again, where's his phone? It would be there. It would have been found.
Yeah.
Okay? It's not an accident. He didn't trip and fall in.
Well,
He didn't go hide in there.
the story in the media is that there's a photograph taken of the bridge just north of his apartment complex, but then the phone, once they finally got the science out there and everything, we watched a video today. The father says that they figured out that there was a ping, and it was way the heck over there. Now, his body was, I should say, remains, were discovered in Perry Place wastewater lift. And that is across the field from his apartment. But from his residence to where the ping was is 4,700 feet north or west-northwest. And I'm going to put these maps up on Kimmy's Facebook page so y'all can see them. The analysis that I did with the designations and whatnot. And I went to the Corpus Christi City website, the GIS for the wastewater sewer system and the manholes, so I know the size of the pipes, what they're constructed of, and everything, where the manhole covers are. I also looked at the storm sewer or storm drainage system, because they're two different systems, and that's another argument that we'll come back to, another theory. But the ping was 4,700 feet from his residence, and from where his body was recovered to where the ping was 3,700 feet. So how do you explain that?
So in the video that we watched with, I don't even know what month it was, of Caleb's parents, and they were just explaining how it was a false alert because it had pinged down the street a mile, and it misled them to think he was there when really it's not. His phone only pinged there. He wasn't really there.
Right.
Now, I, on the other hand, believe that it was a real ping. His phone passed by the vicinity when he was in a vehicle abducted. I believe that it's real. I believe that he was in a vehicle at the time, the Suburban.
Yeah.
And another thing is, it's perfect. If you look at the vehicle, the way that you can drive, okay, from his apartment to the place where that ping is, a mile down.
Mm-hmm.
You have to zigzag to get there. Now, we all know, I mean, like in the movies, I watch a lot of movies. We work on movies legally, right? And so if you're going to be shot, there's somebody chasing you, they're going to shoot you. You don't want to run in a straight path, right? You want to go zigzag so you're not caught. You're not going to be shot at, right? We see that in the movies all the time. Now, if you look at the vehicle, the way that they would draw, I mean, from his apartment to the place of the ping, you would have to zigzag. And it was also a route to avoid, it looks like, avoid cameras.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it really is a high probability that his phone, he and the phone were in a vehicle moving.
And there is another possibility.
And you know what? They really should take note of the time when it pinged down there. It could be really helpful.
There is another possibility. If you go get my book, the one I did with Kevin Gannon, Case Studies in Drowning Forensics, I'm not going to tell you what chapters it is because I don't want to tip off names, but I did a lot of cell phone analysis in there. And in one of the chapters, we have the victim on camera and with eyewitnesses in the bar, pizza place. But when they found him with his phone, there's a picture that was taken 2 miles to the east at the time he was known to be in the bar. And another one of the cases further on in the book, the individual was in the bar, but he supposedly was in one location. But when I did the cell phone analysis on which tower it was hitting on, the phone was not with him. So where a phone pings does not mean the individual is there.
Right.
Clearly.
Yeah.
And that is something we've come to falsely believe, that if my phone pings here, then I must know. That's baloney.
Another thing is that law enforcement say that they don't have evidence of a homicide. However,
oh boy,
it doesn't mean that a homicide did not occur.
There are only 5 manners of death. Cause of death is one thing, but manner of death must be natural, accidental, suicide, homicide, or undetermined. And if it's undetermined, as this really is, then it becomes, as Kevin and Anthony and Mike would call it, a CUPI, case undetermined pending investigation. And this really should be that at the least, but it should be a homicide because there's no way it's an accident, folks. Absolutely no way. And here's the forensic evidence. And I'll let Kimmy ask the questions as I walk through this. I looked at a bunch of different websites. And to begin with, I found the drawings for your standard manhole cover.
How long did it take you to research all this stuff that you're about to share, Dr. G?
Goodness.
I worked on this 5 or 10 minutes.
Maybe 6 hours altogether.
Oh, 6 hours?
Yeah, it took me a good hour just to do the mapping. Maybe an hour and a half. But I found a site where your standard manhole, which is only about an inch and a half thick, at the edges, weighs 175 pounds. Now, good luck trying to lift that.
I tried to lift one before with my finger when I was younger.
Yeah?
I couldn't.
No way. And some of them are solid, except for the pry hole, like a can opener thing. Some of them have holes in them to allow water drainage, off the street. There's another one of the arguments out there on the blog website and thrown out there by law enforcement, let's just admit it,
People magazine,
that the tropical storm Alberto caused the flooding and whatnot. Yeah, I've seen that. I've actually, in videos. because I lived in Texas for a while, and you get water pressure from the storm sewers being flooded, out on the coast, and it causes the manhole covers in town to pop off. But the problem is, this is on the coast, and if you look at videos of it, and I found a website, it's called news.cctexas.com, news release, blah, 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 Tropical Storm Alberto, latest updates for Corpus Christi residents, and dated June 20th. The storm was only in and out June 19th and June 20th in 2024. And there was some flooding, and it lists all the streets that were closed. And yeah, there were some down in and around where he was recovered, but the storm was gone by the 20th, and he wasn't recovered for 4 days. So I'm not buying it that it would take 4 days for water pressure from flooding, which was pretty much just along the coast, wherever there was water, to cause his remains to, be pushed through the system. I'm just not buying it.
Well, devil's advocate here, Dr. G. Well, let's just say the manhole was off. And so the flooding really flooded into the sewer system because there's no connection whatsoever between the sewer and the storm drain. Okay, right? So, but let's say the manhole is off and then it floods in and quite a bit goes in.
Okay.
But the problem is that was April 18th, 2024, when the manhole was reported.
Yeah.
And then they drained it and they went in there. And then the storm is after?
I'm ready for that. I'm ready for that. I looked at Corpus Christi City
Dr. G, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Sorry to interrupt. Okay, of course, you're one of the founders. I call it founders of the smiley face killer theory.
Mm-hmm.
You call it something else, but that's what I call it. And you're on the TV series, not the movie, but the 6th episode, right?
Yep.
Okay, so being that I've studied a few other cases of yours, the smiley face killers, this case kind of resembles, it actually does, the smiley face cases. However, the question I have is, all of them were in water that I'm aware of. They were found floating in a river or where have you. Can there be a smiley face case, a victim, that's not found in water like that? Though Caleb is in water, kind of. But I'm talking in the river, out in the open. Can someone be considered? Have you ever had any smiley cases that are not found in the river or et cetera, water outside the sewer system?
We have discussed this with the media, but it never seems to catch because it's not shiny enough for them, They're like gophers or whatever it is that steal shiny things. And it's not shiny enough because it doesn't ring. Everything's got to be the same for it to be a serial killer or group of killers or whatever. Answer to your question, yes, we have victims who were not found in the water. In fact...
Do you have victims that are not male?
We have female victims, but I'm not going to discuss those. But as far as the male victims... But
there's an overall theme and connection between all of these, regardless of where they're found or gender?
Most of them are found in the water. They're murdered on land and put in the water. But we do have a case in Wisconsin where the victim was found in the woods. His car was out of gas at the time, but it had been running until it ran out of gas. That one was labeled accidental, as usual. We have one in Indiana at a very prominent university that was discovered in an electrical room, which is, when you think about it, is really similar to this because He went missing, Caleb went missing March 4th, and then on April 17th, the police got a tip. So on the 18th...
No, that was April 18th.
On the 18th, they went out
Manhole.
and they found the open manhole. So they drained it. They went down and checked, and we know which manhole that is because of the diagram for the plumbing, and it's the only 15-inch pipe. And it goes to the lift station, so they checked the lift station, and I can read you the quote right out of the article from the city official: nothing was found. And I would think that at that point they put the manhole cover back in place on April 18th. So a whole almost 2 weeks later, he's found
So let me ask
in
you-
that place,
let me
which
ask you-
tells me he wasn't there on April 18th. Where was he prior to that? And now all of a sudden his remains are found in a highly bacteria-infested waters. He was missing a total.
I find it to have that theme of the smiley face killers, and another thing that is similar is, well, he's a handsome young man. He's the right age. He gets good grades. He's a good kid.
Yeah.
He
very spiritual, religious.
Yeah, and he also
Very
was
focused.
abducted by more than one person, more than two
Yeah,
or three.
Yeah.
And also,
Yeah, it is eerie.
yeah, and I think, I'm an English literature major. One of my degrees, right, is that you look for an overall theme, right?
Yeah.
And I think the overall theme, if I'm thinking about the smiley face cases that you've had on your episodes or in your book, or even Caleb, a part of it, if he is one victim, that seems very similar, I would say that there's a connection based on the theme, overall universal theme of hatred. A target of hatred.
Yeah.
Is that how it works with the cases?
Yeah, that's
Do they undergo hatred of sorts?
very true. And it's not hatred for whites, because we have non-white victims as well, at least among the males. Yeah, it's definitely hatred.
It's more religious based?
We've never really commented much on the motive for that reason.
But you could be vague.
We've shared it with law enforcement, but that is an
You could be
aspect
vague.
of it, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, in total, he was missing for 112 and a half days from the time he went missing to when he was recovered. But that's a false belief, because clearly they inspected the Perry Place lift station and he wasn't there. And so that's April 18th. So if you go from April 18th to June 24th, now you're only talking 67 days. In a highly bacteria environment, without getting too graphic. And then you have maceration and putrefaction. The process is going on. And even if there was massive flooding by that time, yeah, he might have made it through the 15-inch pipe. When we look at the map, like I said, I looked at 3 different websites from the city of Corpus Christi for storm sewer manholes and sewage, wastewater, they call it, manhole covers, and then the storm drains and the pipe drains and everything. And I've mapped it out and identified everything. And the manhole that he would have gone in is WWMNHL for wastewater manhole cover, 1123780 for those technical people, and that leads to WW Main 309-96313, which is a 15-inch clay pipe that goes to the lift station. And I've drawn in blue arrows telling you there's 15-inch pipe leading out, and there's a 10-inch pipe coming in from the west, and all the different size pipes, and it makes sense. I did field tiling back before going in the Army, so you go from a smaller pipe to bigger pipes because you keep getting more and more water, right? So you got to be able to get it out of there.
Right.
And that's what we see here, the 15-inch pipe coming from the area of his residence, clay pipe, 15-inch clay pipe, and it goes down to the lift station. Coming in from the north is an 8-inch PVC pipe. That's more modern, more commercial. Clay pipe is ancient, quite frankly. That's that old red stuff, it's very durable over time as long as it's buried, but it can get brittle and collapse. But I don't see how, if he went in there 112 days, that's more than enough time. They should have found him. The alarm on the pipe system should have indicated a clog long before April 18th. It should have done it,
they searched
within a couple days.
Well, they searched it right after that, right? After April 18th.
That's the simple fact right there.
Mm-hmm.
He went missing on March 4th, and on April 18th, he was not in the location where he was recovered. Therefore, he was not there. He was either deceased elsewhere or alive elsewhere on April 18th.
Well, see what I'm talking about. It really resembles the smiley face stuff.
That's not undetermined, folks, and that's not accidental, and it's not natural, and it's not suicide.
No.
You're left with one thing. It should be labeled a homicide, and they should get out there. And I've written down some extra questions, but I'm not going to say them over the air. I'm going to share them with law enforcement. To hopefully it'll help your investigation.
Well, and the thing is, it's just because you can't find evidence on his body, his person, or on scene that it's not a homicide doesn't mean you should stop there.
That's right.
I wouldn't.
That's right. There should be, forensically, there should be indications.
I would start looking at people who...
On the bones, if they can find them.
There's a connection to... in his circle.
But God showed you clearly it was a homicide, right?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I repeatedly said it within both emails to law enforcement that I said, I hope that you got the last one that I said where I reported the vehicle. I told them that I'm praying for you guys to recover his remains. Caleb for recovery. I made it clear in both emails. The Lord showed me that.
Yeah, this is one of those cases.
Now we can't really go by, let's say, oh well, Kimmy saw that the first email I sent was what? March 23rd, did I say?
Yep.
Okay. We can't say, oh, March 23rd, she saw that he was deceased. You can't really go by, oh, by March 23rd, he was deceased. I'm prophetic. I will see things that occur 10 years from now. Okay?
Yeah.
You can't do that. You can't assume it's not a normal scenario to be basing, just because I saw something on March 23rd, he could have been alive at that point. I'm complicated.
Yeah.
The gift is different. It's not like normal, the normal way we all live. It's like there's no time. Were you going to say something else, Dr. G?
Yeah, I was reminded of an old friend that Kevin and I used, and you and I used on cases, Dr. Cyril Weck, the forensic pathologist, the famous one from
him
Pittsburgh.
Right now.
And he would look at this, I'm positive, and he would say, from a forensic pathological perspective.
If you guys don't know,
he always had a...
Dr. Weck is famous. Google him. But he was on the 6 episodes, as well as he would help me for free, God bless him, on the Natalie Wood, the famous movie star Natalie Wood's case when we worked that case and reported it to law enforcement and of what had happened, and we got his professional opinion. And we do this for free, and so did he.
Yep.
And that was really sweet. He was a really sweet man, and he recently passed.
Yeah. He wrote the statement on the back of our book, too. Kevin and I met with him a couple, 2-3 times before the show even became a concept. Getting a little sidetracked there and reminiscent.
But he was something else.
Wonderful man.
Yeah, I mean, he was a JD and an MD.
Yeah.
So an attorney and a medical doctor.
Wonderful man.
Yeah. And humble as can be.
Oh, he really was.
Yeah. I mean, he helped us for free. God bless him.
Yeah. And a lot of families, too. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so hopefully the police will continue to investigate Caleb's case. They're not saying that it's an accident. They have not, that I've seen, actually closed it. They're saying that they're still open-minded.
Well, yeah, and I think that they want people to report it. But I want to encourage them, if you're listening, law enforcement, I encourage you to look again in the inner circles. Who did he talk to through Snapchat? Who did he invite that night to? I read online on Reddit that he was supposed to meet up with someone. Who was that?
Yeah.
Go investigate. Dig through his black book, so to speak, his list of friends and acquaintances, those that are not really connected too strongly, but they're there. That's what I would do, and I believe that you can crack it if you do that.
Yep.
But I wouldn't give up. If I was an investigator on this case, I wouldn't give up.
Oh, I almost forgot about this. One last thing. There are some bloggers out there who say that the tropical storm caused the water in the sewer system to flood, and that's what pushed his remains through on the 24th. Okay, first off, his remains did not plug the 15-inch drain until the 24th when it set off an alarm. The storm was gone by the 20th. Second point, if you go to epa.gov/NPDES/where combined sewer overflow outflows are located, what I'm talking about is a very special program that the EPA has, and it's called National Pollution Discharge Elimination System. And there are, I'll read this from their website, there are approximately 700 communities in the United States that have combined sewer systems, that's storm drain sewer systems with wastewater sewer systems, and experience combined sewer overflow, CSO discharges. And they have a map here, and guess what? None of the little purple dots are in Texas. In other words, there are no sewer systems anywhere in the state of Texas where storm sewers, which is water that goes off your streets back into the ocean or the nearest body of water or into farm fields or wherever, and sewer systems or wastewater systems that go to the water treatment plant to get everything filtered out of it, and and all the bacteria from humans and killed, and unfortunately all the drugs that we throw down our toilets are there too. But there's none of that combined systems in Texas. So much for that blog and that theory and that rumor, and it's a waste of time. The two systems are not the same. So how does a human body end up in the wastewater system? You're not going to flush it down the toilet.
I believe through the manhole that was open.
He had to have been put in there, right?
Yeah, there's no way he would go in there.
Yep.
He's got a life.
It, put him in there, and closed it.
He's got a life. And I can tell you he's not going to fall in there. And if so, where's his phone? I ask you again. Mm-hmm. If it's an accident, his phone's in there. Go find it. And then you find it. Make sure to tell us all online, and I will shut up. But it's not an accident. The phone would be in there.
Okay. I think we can wrap it up there, right?
Yes.
Anything else? How can people get in touch with you, Rev Kimmy?
They can write me by my Facebook if they want. It seems like a lot of people do that. And also, you guys can follow me on Facebook. There's a lot of people doing that. I'm tapped out on the 5,000 friends, so people are following me. You can find me as Kimmy, Kymmi, Bloomberg, BLOOMBERG. And the email you can write is Rev, REV, KYMMI, Dr. G at gmail.com. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay.
And so you provide this as a free service to law enforcement, correct?
Oh, yeah, I've helped law enforcement, yes, a lot.
Yeah.
Yep. I used to help family and had a bad experience, so I refrained from... I help family through law enforcement is what I do, and I help the victim through law enforcement.
Yeah, I don't want to re-victimize them.
Yeah, I don't want to upset anybody, and with law enforcement, I can tell them anything, they can handle it. I don't want to disturb. Remember, I, ministered to people in the hospital for 20 years, weekly, for 20 years, about 100 people a week. So I'm into healing, I'm into protecting people and not harming them, and so it's best that I work, directly communicate with law enforcement.
Okay.
But they can contact me if they want their own prophetic sessions.
Oh, okay.
I could help them to heal. I could help them in so many ways. This gift, God will show me things about you. And I don't know what it is because it's such a broad range of things that the Lord can bring up that's healing for someone or deliverance or what's your calling, what are your gifts, or if you have a question about something, usually God will give the answers.
Yeah, I've seen
the prophetic
answers.
I've
seen you tell them how to reach out to estranged family members and about health issues.
Yeah, so I have a wait list, guys. There are people I help on a regular basis, and so you want to get on that wait list and write me by our revkimmy.drg@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Or through my Facebook.
This podcast is heard, goodness, every state in the Union, in the United States, and over 60, I think we're up to about 65 or 70 countries now, worldwide. It's just incredible. Please
and the countries that listen to us is just surprising. Because you would never think, wait, we're heard there? Right?
Saudi Arabia, Bangladesh, it's just...
Yeah, Mecca.
It's just incredible. So please share this with your friends and family and put it up on your Facebook, whatever, and then let us know that you're listening to us.
Oh, I do want to say hi to England. They listen quite a bit.
Australia.
Yeah, Australia listens quite a bit. Hello, and India. And everyone who listens, hello.
Yeah.
Thank you. And please share with your family and friends. And we've had, on our content, we have had probably over 4 million hits or listens or views or whatever it is. But people are really starting to follow what God is doing through us.
Yeah, and all the different Spotify, iHeart,
it's on every
Speaker, YouTube, even some we'd never even heard of. We just discovered.
Yeah, they're different countries.
Yeah. But please email us too and let us know that you're listening. And click follow.
Yes. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And we'll talk to you on our next episode. God bless you.
Bye-bye.